And what are we up to today on old Zambo TV? I was thinking about this. I am fascinated with politics, have been for years, but YouTube is not the place for political discourse. I think I should start a Rumble channel. Then we can put the worlds to rights. But anyway, today we've got a special guest back in the show. From the Alba party, we have Nick Durie. Great to have you back, Nick. Last time I spoke to you, you says you would come back on, jump in the van. You've did it. You've been as good as your word. You are running again for... Nick, you tell me.
Well, there's a by-election in Maryhill happening just now because the previous incumbent, Kieran O'Neill, decided to jack it in as a councillor, having been a councillor for only a couple of years in his early 20s. He got a high-paid job in London, so he's off to do his Dick Whittington, leaving the constituency in the lurch. So I decided to put my toe in the water because I have lived here most of my adult life, raised my children here, and there's a lot of things going wrong in Maryhill right now, which are a microcosm of what's going wrong in society. For example, the Maryhill hub is being threatened. There's a demonstration about that tomorrow, but being threatened by the council after the council gave assurances that following demolition there would be a like-for-like replacement, rolled back on that commitment as soon as they could get away with it. So I'm not going to let them away with that. Additionally, we've got, as we know, the housing and homelessness emergency, 600 social homes being demolished in the Wynford, much less replaced. Wheatley, in hand in glove with the council and the Scottish Government, SNP Council, SNP Green Council, I should say, and SNP Government, removing large numbers of social homes and replacing them with flat roofs in the west central Scotland. So that's their plan. Then, of course, Kalina Street, an unwon cause, something that organised people helped prevent the SNP Green Council from privatising during the height of the pandemic. But if they could build 400 yuppie flats, as they intended to, they can build 400 council houses. So it's an important election, and particularly for the Alba party after our leader died, he championed these causes too. So we need to push forward with Scottish independence. And the best way to do that is to score big in this election. As I say, the other parties aren't taking it at all seriously. Lorna Finn, the SNP candidate, I don't believe she lives in the area or has any real connection to it. Ellie Gomersall, the Green candidate, another example, people flying in by night. Why is Maryhill suddenly the place where you dump your politicians? It doesn't make sense to me, but anyway, we must get on with things. We have to organise and win here because there's working people are struggling and we need to fight back.
The last time we spoke, you're one of the few candidates that actually lives in your own ward.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a major one. Now, when you pop down, we were chatting, these things traditionally have very, very low turnouts.
Yeah, that's true. I think people feel really beaten down now. We had hope in the past. 2014 gave us hope. Maybe for some people, the rise of Corbyn gave them hope. But it is a situation that every year it gets worse. I mean, I'm 41 now, and every single year, the living standards of ordinary people have tended to drop. And they are not certainly doing any better under Keir Starmer. Maybe a lot of people gave him...
Don't get me started.
Well, a lot of people thought we need a change, we'll have Keir Starmer in, and first thing he did is attack the pensioners. So, we are in a...
The other thing we spoke about when we were off, a lot of people don't use social media. I believe it was on the same day or the same week that he cut the winter fuel allowance for your granny.
Mm-hmm.
He slung the Ukrainians £3 billion in weapons.
Well, I mean, it's clear that the war in Ukraine has become something like the Korean War.
Vietnam.
There's this vast fronts of men getting killed left, right, and centre, and ultimately all wars end in dialogue. So I'd rather get the dialogue happening now rather than getting more and more weapons, because I don't think Ukraine can win, but I don't think the war should continue. I think we need to negotiate settlement, and that's the best way forward.
The other thing, I'm sure I'm spitballing, right? I believe the winter fuel payment was something like 1.3 billion quid.
Yeah.
And they sent 3 billion to Ukraine. Last week or the week before that, they've now sent another 2.4 billion pounds.
Yeah.
And we're, you know, as we drive about, there's money in Glasgow. You know, there's also poverty in Glasgow, and I just think to your granny, to the people in need, it's disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 3,000 children in this city who are living in temporary accommodation. You're homeless. It's a disgrace. And,
So the most energy, oil and gas rich country in Europe has 3,000 kids living in temporary accommodation in its biggest city.
Yes.
How does... Right, I'm going to shut up. Right, go for it, Nick.
No, I mean, you mentioned energy wealth. That sometimes can seem a bit abstract because we're not sat here in Aberdeen, the oil capital. You know, we're sat here in Glasgow. But take the Kelvin. For example, the Glasgow University found that a heat pump in the Kelvin could power all of Glasgow University's campus. Now, if it could power all of Glasgow University's campus, it could heat all of Maryhill. And for example, if the proposals that were put forward during the Still Game for the Valley campaign to build a heat pump and greenhouses and council houses there were the priorities of the city, that would be both creating an enterprise that would employ people and lowering fuel bills. But here we are talking about pensioners freezing to death. There's something really wrong with the political priorities of Labour, the SNP, the Greens. They all seem to be in it together. And you mentioned war. You know, look at what's been happening in Gaza. This is
don't get me started.
Well, this is what the British government is deciding to spend its money on. You know, we are running flying missions for Israel to bomb people in tents, and that's a disgrace. But what's the Scottish government doing about it? Well, Angus Robertson was meeting with the Israeli Foreign Minister, sanctioned by John Swinney. We need proper action on these things if we're to have peace in our time and spend our money on things that really matter. Like
that's a big one for me. You know, what's this got to do with me, you, Scotland?
Mm-hmm.
An architect in the West End or a bricklayer? How is this benefiting us in any way? It's not bringing our energy bills down. It's not putting more money in our pockets. Why are their priorities so skewed?
Well, I think the defence and security establishment want to play the big boys on the world stage. They want to pretend that they're off killing fuzzy wuzzies and in the good days of the Raj. It's this country, United Kingdom, has a god complex, and
we've not lost our imperial mindset, or the powers that be, the higher echelons, the ones that go to these posh English private schools, have not lost this imperial mindset.
No, but again, I would say, why was Angus Robertson meeting with a genocidal regime sanctioned by John Swinney?
Bad optics.
It's not just bad optics. It's a complete deracination of political and ethical conscience.
I'm going to interrupt here. Deracination, Nick. You are a wordsmith. Thank you for getting that in there. That's the first time we've had deracination in the Zambo TV. Cheers, pal.
But that's what we're talking about. They don't believe in anything anymore. A political class, they don't believe in anything.
From armchair follower of Scottish politics, I'm looking at this as being stuff to beat them over the head with.
Mm-hmm.
Take away the winter fuel allowance. The politicians should be jumping about going, we're so energy rich, we should be giving our pensioners fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the Scottish government done to resist that? You know, the actual benefit was devolved to the Scottish government. So it had two options. It could have robbed Peter to pay Paul from the rest of the budget to carry on with winter fuel payment in Scotland. We know it's 900,000 Scots affected by this.
900?
Yes, 900,000.
That's close to 20% of our population.
Yes. So we know that's how many people were affected. The Scottish government could have mitigated it, or it could do what we've been doing as a party in taking legal action against the British government, launching a judicial review. So
that costs money.
It does, but it costs far less mitigating
the offset
yeah.
to the
But they're doing neither. They are supine. Now, our umwhile party leader, when he was on the stage at the Hope Over Fear rally a few weeks ago, what he said is the age of capitulation needs to end. We need adults back in the room.
Winter fuel payment, sending money to Ukraine, the genocide, the Holocaust in Gaza.
Yeah, helping orchestrate genocide is not what people who are in public life should be about.
If Brexit was enough to push us over the hill, washing the blood off Scotland's hands by no longer being involved with these people should have been the next step in getting us closer to not having to. I don't want to tie with Westminster, I don't want to tie with NATO, I don't want to tie with the EU, I don't want to tie with the USA until these people get their stuff sorted out, But again, as you said, supine.
Yeah, supine. Supine and lacking in any kind of direction. What we are seeing among all of our political classes, the United, the Greens, the SNP, Labour, you couldn't put a fact paper between them on questions like what were you going to do about the homelessness in our city? What are you going to do about the fact that our largest landlord is directing public policy? What are you going to do about, as you said, genocide? All these ethical questions, they don't have an answer for them.
And when ethical questions start freezing grannies, it becomes more than ethical, it becomes our duty.
Exactly. And so that's why we're standing in this election, because we want to make a difference. We want to make a change, and we want to change the narrative away from ivory tower politics that we see at Holyrood and at Westminster and at Glasgow City Chambers, it must be said, to the priorities of working people and raising working people up, protecting and expanding our common treasury for the benefit of everyone. And that's ultimately what independence is about as well, taking hold of that common treasury and putting it to work for working people.
Thank you for your time. What I said the last time is it's a boots on the ground operation. If you can help Nick by dishing out flyers, if you can help Nick by chapping doors, if you can sling Nick 10, you did well with you did a crowdfunder.
Yeah, we launched a crowdfunder about 16 hours ago, and last time I looked 173% funded, which is good because it means we can get more than 10,000 flyers, but also start looking at posters and other kinds of outreach.
We need armies to fight battles. You need guys in trenches, but you also need guys driving trucks. You need guys doing the logistics, the support. You need cooks, you need chefs. Let's try to re-energise the spirit we had in 2014 where we pull together and try to help each other. So the last thing we do before we wrap up, how can we get hold of you, Nick?
You can get me on Twitter. I'll send Zambo the link for that. But you can also get me on my phone. I always take calls 079 045 53200, and we'll be active every day until the 21st November, so do get in touch if you've got a spare moment, because we will put you to work.
Nick Durie, God bless you, gentlemen. Get out there and get these. I'm not going to swear on my channel, but you know where it's going. Thank you so much for your time, mate. It's really appreciated. Right, see you all later. In fact, tradition on my YouTube channel, I always get the guests to say bye bye YouTube.
Bye bye YouTube. Bye bye Zambo.